Well, speaking of the cuts that you mentioned, I wanted to look at some of the mass firings. Okay. Sorry, sir. I have quite a few notes for you, and I'm now skipping the order here. Since the commencement of President Donald Trump's second term, January 2025, his administration has undertaken extensive measures to downsize the federal workforce, aiming to reduce government spending, streamline operations. Okay. So we've got the Department of Veteran Affairs. Approximately 80,000 positions were terminated. The IRS, 7,000 terminations. The National Park Service, 1,000. Department of Health and Human Services, 5,200. And then a coalition of 20 state attorneys general have filed lawsuits against Trump seeking to stop him from doing this and keep him from doing more firings and reinstate people that he's fired. Legally, is this allowed? Is it not allowed? Isn't it up to him? What's the legal position? Because ultimately, as mentioned, it all boils down to that, correct?
You can sue anybody for anything, but these suits will not prevail.
Really?
President has the spending. The president has the right to decide that he wants a smaller government. And as long as he does it pursuant to the law, he can't fire certain civil service people because there are statutes prohibiting that. But generally, he can do what he has done, and there'll be challenges. The challenges will fail. The ones that might succeed are, for example, where persons have already earned the money. Say, for example, AID, where they have spent the money. And now the president says, well, we're not going to pay them for what they've earned. The courts will probably say no to that.
Right.
They'll say no to other things. But, our system of checks and balances is working well. It's saying to the president, yeah, you can do most of the things you want to do, but occasionally you go too far. And it was a 5-4 decision by the Supreme Court the other day, including one of the justices who he appointed, Justice Barrett, who said, no, you've gone too far. That's simply the system working.
Okay. And in what capacity, though, did he go too far? That was by not paying people who've already done the work, you're saying? That was the gone too far piece?
That's one of the elements. I mean, if you have something where Congress, for example, specifically authorizes payment in a certain way, and it creates a mechanism for how the payment can be stopped, and the executive doesn't follow through. But in general, the courts are going to find that the president has the authority to make cuts in big government. They're going to uphold the vast majority of what the president does, as they have throughout history. They did it during the New Deal. They've done it during other periods of time when there have been challenges to presidential actions. We have a very strong presidency in the United States, and more than many other countries with parliamentary systems. And the president can't be impeached except for treason, bribery, other high crimes and misdemeanors. I know that because I defended President Trump against an unconstitutional impeachment back several years ago. And the framers of the Constitution rejected the British system, which would have given Congress more authority to end the presidency of a president who was guilty of maladministration. Congress, the framers of the Constitution said, no way. It has to be treason or bribery or high crimes and misdemeanors. And that's the law.
See, this makes me way more sympathetic to the president because of what he has been through. And what I mean by that, sir, is obviously we've seen a biased media. Of course, listen, both sides of the media are biased, but the sides of the media are like 80% left, 20% right. You've seen Citibank, I think it was Capital One, debank the Trump family. Now Eric Trump is suing them, which I find fascinating. And you've got Trump going after Capital One, after CBS. I want to ask you, what do you think? Oh, sorry, sir. Say that again. I lost you.
After some of the law firms as well that went after him. So, President Trump goes after people who go after him.
Right.
One of the most important groups that have gone after the president, 95%. And that is academia, where I spent 70 years of my life in higher education. And you can't find very few people who will make the case for Donald Trump or make the case against the use of lawfare against Donald Trump. When I did that, when I wrote my books, I was not a supporter of Donald Trump politically, but I was a supporter of the Constitution legally. I got canceled by many academic institutions that used to invite me to give lectures and speeches and get degrees. But once I defended Trump, forget about it. I was persona non grata in academy. And the other thing about the academy is if you want to predict what the country will be like in 20 years, you look at the students today because they'll be our leaders in 20 years. And the kids who are demonstrating on university campuses, locking down the campuses, blocking access to Jewish and Zionist students, these are going to be members of Congress in 20 years. And these are going to be the editors of the New York Times and the senior partners in Goldman Sachs. So you can predict what the country will look like if you look hard at what the academy looks like today.
I am seeing a counter movement to that, though. Myself, my son, many of my friends, their young sons are moving far more right because I believe they've identified with the president, if that's even possible, and seen gross injustice where he's concerned. I was just talking to a friend of mine who's doing my hair and makeup. We've been friends for 20 years. She's got 2 boys that are my children's age, and they just went to go see Charlie Kirk. They're 12 and 14. I was blown away. I'm not saying it's here nor there, but I do think that there is a counter movement to this woke ideology, which I'm grateful for. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And make sure to let me know what guests you want to see on in the future.